Hey, can you guys hear me?
Hey, Maureen.
Loud.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Bantu Basemhlaben.
Oh, good afternoon. Now I'm not doing all up. Come down. So, good to see you, Maureen.
Thank you, Prapet. Good to see you too, and my two. Lovely to meet you too, sir. Sure.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
That's Mkhuseli Mbomvu and Thulani Sibeko. All right.
Pleased to meet you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Pleased to meet you too.
Very powerful gentlemen these, eh? I'm feeling very intimidated today.
Don't worry.
I received that.
Okay. Let me do a bit of admin so you can carry on. I will just do my own thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, if you can I'm just checking instability of my Nanzika blend down. If there's a problem, I will change. But it looks like I can hear everybody. So I'm good for now.
Yeah, we can hear you very well. Welcome.
Sound is fine.
Okay, the sound is good. Welcome, Renee. We can hear you. We can hear you, because there's no problem at all. All right. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stream on Facebook in the next few minutes. It's just taking a bit of time, but it's going to get there. Okay, let me just.
Change your screen. Record. See these spots I don't know. Just put on it. Wait. I'm trying to find my way.
Okay. All right, we're going to start very soon. I don't know whether Facebook is live or not, but it's just giving me a bit of a struggle here.
Okay. Ed, will you record this?
Sorry?
Will you be recording?
Yes, I'll be recording.
Awesome.
I'll be recording, yeah. I'll be recording. I have a problem. I envy you because you've got Isbex Zen, and then you can see far, you can see close, you know. I'm betting to see close, and when I'm, you know,
you can use mine.
Yeah.
You can use mine. I'm just going to stand like this. You can use mine.
Otherwise, how is your Sundays, guys? Everything is fine?
All good this end.
All good. Okay.
No, this was a different Sunday.
Yeah.
How so?
It's quite a hectic Sunday. It becomes hectic.
Yes. I can.
Tina band baka operations. And Teddy Graba Baka Standard Bank, but Teta because baka marketing. Standard Bank no sanlamba Teta. That's their job, Teta.
All right, I'm just accepting people as they come. There's a bit of delay with connecting on the Facebook, but I'm sure it will at some point. So
It's perhaps inappropriate to check, okay?
So what I've got.
You've got the parental settings.
It's still
Welcome.
inappropriate, but it's.
I can see there's Tato. I can see that there's Tato Mputi Nomonde Kulati. Maureen, Greg, welcome. Nick, Renee, welcome, guys. Yeah, we're just waiting. Mama, don't put the Facebook to connect here because it doesn't show here from where I am if it is connected. It seems as if we've got quite a number of people that are joining us on Zoom here, so bear with me as I accept them, and then we're going to start very soon. We don't want to keep you here longer than necessary. I know that if you were Kaizer Chiefs supporters, you would be happy when Kaizer Chiefs is not playing, and it's not playing today. So,
again, I can connect to Facebook. I've got fans as man as Facebook. I can connect.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Just tell them, Uguti. I'm doing it now, but it's giving me a bit of a battle. Okay. But we will record it and make sure that everybody has it. And I think as we go along, the Facebook connection will finally take up. It sometimes gives a bit of problems. So I just need to apologize to them for that. Okay, there are two people that are in the waiting room. We're just gonna wait for the people that are in the waiting room to come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you who have joined us. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. Okay. Welcome, Norma Mazibuko. People are coming in. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Welcome, Tato. Welcome, Luando. Maureen, your screen is shaky. I don't know whether it's mine.
It's shaky.
Yes.
Is it okay now? Is it fine now?
It's fine. It possibly is mine, but we're gonna press on because I can see you, I can hear you. Can you see me well?
Thulani, you can check for us. Is it okay?
Maureen is clear on my side.
Is it? Am I clear as well?
Yes, not as clear as Maureen and Kuz.
Oh, okay. Let me go there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get closer, a little bit closer. All right, colleagues, it's 5 minutes past 4 o'clock. We're gonna keep trying the face. What did I say?
Past 2.
Past 4.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, it's past 2 o'clock. So, so we're gonna keep going until we're able to connect with Facebook. But for now, I think we've got quite a few people that have joined us here on Zoom, and I'd like to welcome them. And all our guests are visible. Yeah, we can see you. And let me just thank you so much, Maureen, Thulani, and Mkhuseli, for joining us this afternoon. Please just inform your contacts that we're still trying to connect on Facebook, and if they can, then we can please join us here on Zoom in the meantime. But we're still battling with that. We tried it earlier on, it worked well, and I don't know what's happening now. So, but we're gonna keep trying until we're able to do it. So please pass our apologies to them. And there's still more time, there's still space for people to join here on Zoom. And so those that can should please do that. All right, friends who are at home, we have today 3 of the most wonderful people that I know, but they're not just wonderful, they are leaders in industry and experienced people that have worked in the corporate sector for a while. And I'm sure there are many people out there who are looking and saying, you know, considering where I am in my life, maybe they are somewhere in the township, in the rural areas, in a difficult conditions. Can I ever make it in life? Can I really amount to anything? Kus, I don't see you here. Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's it. People that are saying,
I hope others can see me.
Yeah. Yeah, can you see him, Sibeko? Can you see Kus? Okay, good. All right, that's good. So there are people out there who are saying, can I amount to anything? Is there someone who looks like me, who grew up in the similar conditions like I did, who's out there, who can really make it in this life? It's so difficult, but can we make it? And so we are having today an inspirational group of people, people that are going to take us through their own journeys, people that are going to take us through their lives so that we can learn lessons. They're going to share things about themselves. And so I'd like to welcome them, the 3 of them here. We have Miss Maureen Williams-Mtonintshi. She is a director of operations at McDonald's South Africa. Welcome, Maureen. Good to have you.
Thank you very much, Prapet.
Thank you. We also have Mkhuseli Mbomvu. When you hear me saying Nozinga, you understand, you need to know that I'm talking to him, Mkhuseli Mbomvu, he is a managing executive at Sanlam Corporate. Welcome, Nozinga.
Thank you, Tatrick Kulati, and good afternoon to everyone.
Okay, thank you, sir. And last but not least, we've got Mr. Thulani Sibeko Mazia. He is a Chief Marketing Officer at Standard Bank. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Guwe, and to all the colleagues around.
Yes, thank you, man. And today they are not talking about their corporate businesses or their workplaces. We're just going to talk to them about their lives. We're going to talk to them about their lives, but it's important to highlight the kind of people that they are. Maureen has been serving at McDonald's for many years. Started off as a GM and then moved to Director of Operations, 28 years in corporate, including retail, banking, finance, and so on. And I think another important part here, considering the issue of women empowerment in South Africa, she is the chairperson of McDonald's SA Women's Leadership Network. And I think we're going to talk about that as well, because the issue of women empowerment in our country is important. Thulani has been in banking, as far as I can see, for many years in various companies, Nedbank, and now he's at Standard Bank. And Kus has been in the financial sector, financial industry, services industry for many years as well. I can think of Old Mutual, you know, many others, but now he is at Sanlam. Welcome, gentlemen and lady. Now, let me start with you, Thulani. Can you just give us information about your background, man? Where you grew up, how were the conditions where you grew up? You know, what schools did you attend and all of that? Just give us a briefly just about you so that the listeners out there, the people that are viewing, can actually understand who is this Thulani that we're talking about.
Okay, no, thank you so much and good afternoon once again. I was born and raised in Soweto.
Can you raise your voice a little bit?
I was born and raised in Soweto. Can you hear me?
Your volume is slightly soft. If you can just increase it.
Okay.
We can hear him.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay.
You might have a network challenge on your end.
Okay, sure, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
As I was saying, I was born and raised in Soweto, and I grew up with an intention of being a chartered accountant, which is something that formulated during high school. I finished grade 12 in the Eastern Cape at a school called Bethel.
Okay.
And after Bethel, I went on to study in Zimbabwe, my first 2 years of my accounting degree. And then after 2 years at Solusi, I went to California State University. That's where I graduated with my accounting degree. Throughout, I thought I was going to be a CA, but I've never worked a single day as an accountant.
Wow.
For the last 27 years or so, I've been working in the marketing and communication field, but hugely indebted to the foundations of my accounting degree that I got at school. If I can leave it there for now.
Okay, all right, wow. So, so you did accounting and you went to all these different places. And how were the socio-economic conditions there? In the areas you grew up, in the places you went to school at?
Growing up in Soweto, I must say I had a happy and blessed childhood. Needs were met. There were some wants that were not. There were trips I couldn't go to because of Imali. There were certain luxuries I couldn't get because of Imali, but things that I needed were all taken care of. And so it was a fortunate upbringing, I would say.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you for that synopsis over there. And I'm sure there's much packed into that we are going to unpack as we go along. Maureen, let me come to you now. Just give us a brief synopsis about yourself. Maureen,
I trust it's going to be, yes, I'm here. I trust it's going to be brief. Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
I was born and bred in Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape, Epai.
Epai, Mamboza.
But I grew up in a very, very interesting place called Village Board. It is between Coston and New Brighton.
Okay.
So I was in the middle of Afrikaans-speaking people and Xhosa-speaking people.
Hey.
So the place was it was before the Group Areas Act, so I'm older than Thulani and Mkhuseli. I grew up in a multiracial environment where we had Indian people, Jewish people, Greek people, colored people, black, all types of people in Village Board. And therefore that shaped my character because I could relate to people at all levels and I didn't understand the thing of color, but every weekend I used to go to my mother's family in New Brighton and spend my weekends there. Because my mother passed away when I was 5 years old. So my father married a wonderful stepmother of mine, a colored woman, and she brought me up together with my father, but weekends I'll go to my Xhosa family.
Okay.
And that's how I knew Xhosa, because I went to schools those days. It was before the Areas Act, a school called Costin Union. But because of the Group Areas Act, people were then had to move to Shorterville, Salt Lake, if you know,
yes,
the
I
Eastern
know.
Cape or the PE. And then I went to a school called Diedrichs, and then I went to a school called Van der Kemp. You can hear the name of these schools, Van der Kemp, Laar School. And then I went to a high school called Battles Senior Secondary School, where we had the best, I'll tell you further, I don't want to talk too long, best discipline, Patterson High. My life is a bit very different, is that in my journey, is in that all my life, from standard 8 to standard 10, I know it's grades now, I've always had to do casual work to survive. So I used to do casual work, and my life has been embedded in understanding retail. So I've always used to do casual work in matric. Weekends, I would go and work at Edgar, Sales House, Cuthbert's, ABC, all those kind of retail environments. And therefore, when once I studied, I wanted to understand what is selling. So I did I went to PE Technicon whilst I was working, and I did a course called personal selling, okay? It was
personal
part of
selling.
Marketing, maybe, I don't know whether, yes, personal selling. That was part of the marketing. But then because I was working as I was studying, I studied through UNISA. I got a certificate for Introduction to South African Economy, the Management Environment, South African Economy. But my studying has been very different in that I have studied a lot through the business schools. I went to the UCT Graduate School of Business. I went to Stellenbosch University Graduate School of Business, and I went to Wits University Graduate School of Business. So my stream has been business schools, although I started with PE Technicon, UNISA, but my stream has been business schools because, I didn't have the luxury of going to university and study, but I worked hard all my life, and I did work myself up and studied through the business schools. That's where I am, Brabet.
Okay.
I had a wonderful upbringing, yes.
Yeah. All right, so it's some sort of a cultural melting point, it sounds like it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now we are with you, Mjobi. Can you just take us through the brief synopsis?
Thank you, Kajen, and good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon.
I was born, bred, and fed in Cape Town, in Buletu Books, NY5, and I basically then grew up in Langa, my formative years. But then in 1976, I had a lovely stint during the riots where we went down to the Eastern Cape as kids, rural, in
All right. So sorry, Kus, can I just ask the people to please just mute their phones, please. Otherwise, I'm going to mute it myself here. People, I can hear some people talking. Can you please mute your phone or your computer? Okay, go ahead, Kus. Sna, can you please mute yourself, please? Okay, I'm muted. Go ahead, Kus.
Thank you, Kajen. So I had a short stint around 1976 of being a rural boy, getting off my high shoes, because we used to wear shoes in Cape Town. Then when we arrived in the rural areas, everybody was walking barefooted. Wow. And that was one of the significant changes where one needed to adapt to a different lifestyle. So I had a short stint in the Eastern Cape, a rural Eastern Cape, and also in the township Mkhuseli Mbomvu, But then I came back to Cape Town, where I basically completed my primary education, my high school education in Langa High School, which is one of the oldest township schools, high schools basically, in Cape Town. It's approaching 100 years now, Langa High School. I'm a proud matriculant from Langa High School. And after matric, talking about my upbringing, I grew up in a very busy, big family. We are 12 children. Wow. And I'm number 4 of 12. So we have been a clan. That Sibeko talks about having the basic necessities and not necessarily affording luxuries, but where we came from, it was mainly where all the basic needs were basically supplied, and that was about it. Anything luxury, you dream of, and that's basically what we grew up, how we grew up. Life was a negotiation. We did not have electricity up until 1982, where you would need to plan and wake up early in the morning to kind of start boiling water in order for you to wash. Everything was planned from shifts in the bathrooms, because you can understand having 20 people in the house. So I grew up in that type of an environment where even washing dishes was basically a negotiation and a plan. And that has actually helped me a lot in terms of being organized, also in terms of sharing, in terms of also having, my mother always say, you are 12 children, you are almost like the 12 tribes of Judah, you are different. And I've learned a lot in terms of having to deal with different characters. I mean, we don't even look alike as siblings, and even our characters are slightly different. So that has definitely helped me a lot in interactions and having to understand strange and difficult and different characters. I will leave it there now, Kakeni. Maybe I need to mention that after matric, others have gone to school. We could not afford, my parents could not afford, you can imagine, so many children. So I went and worked as a taxi driver. And I will pick up on that later. Let me leave it there for now.
You know, it's quite interesting to know people's backgrounds. You know, for example, Mkhuseli, I think we've known each other for a long time. I didn't know that you were actually born in Guks, but you grew up in Langa. And people, when they look at you probably now, or even you, Maureen, they can't say you were once a casual at a sales house or a taxi driver, anything of that sort. And that is what is the value of knowing people's backgrounds, so that we can move from a point of commonality to say that where you are now, someone was there before. And so if you are hopeless because of your socioeconomic conditions, you don't have to be. You can still make it in life. Now, a few, and by the way, it's now live on Facebook, okay? So you can tell people. So a few days ago, I think it was on Tuesday, or Wednesday, I interviewed Pat Komafan on his new book about the price and price of greatness. And he seemed to have picked up quite early in his life, his passion and in radio and all of that. Did you feel that you picked up quite early where you want to be? Thulani talked about being a CA, wanting to be a CA. Did you battle to really find out where you want to go in life, or was it an issue of saying, I've got this passion and I'd like to pursue it? Let's start with you, Tuls.
Yeah, in my case, I would say that very early on in my life, I knew what I wanted to be. I recall that, in high school, I don't remember who told us this, but they indicated that as you think about choosing your career, you have to think about your abilities, you have to think about your interests, and also think about opportunities. So by the time I was in my early teens, I knew that I loved commerce. I knew that I wanted to be an accountant, and I was clear then that at the time, there were not too many black chartered accountants. So from an opportunity point of view, it was evident. The part that was not as strong was my purpose in life. It's something that became clearer much, much later in my adulthood. But in terms of career interests, in terms of knowing what my strengths are, I was fortunate that very early I had a view, and that knowledge actually helped me to accelerate certain steps in my upbringing and my career.
Okay, and then did you have mentors? Did you have people that you were looking up to who were accountants? So why accountant? Why was it about your aptitude for numbers and so on? Why accounting?
It's a combination of factors. My numeracy was strong, so I was decent with numbers. But remember my triple consideration of abilities, interest, and opportunity.
Okay.
When you grow up with little, economic success was important. So in the choosing, it was clear, but Gini, each other accountants, there was a sense that it's a rewarding career financially. So thankfully, because my commercial knowledge was decent, I was able to have that combination. Yes, I did have mentors. I think I was fortunate that my dad and my mom were my first mentors.
Okay.
My dad had a huge influence on humility, respect for others, and he was just an exceptional organizer. And the other gift that he gave us is not to take ourselves seriously. He just, had a humor of note. My mom, on the other hand, was very key in terms of caring for others and generosity. And then career-wise, I was very fortunate that most of my friends were older than I am. And I would say of my friends that became mentors also, I would single out Mkhuseli Mbomvu. We've been family friends for the longest of time. And he was a generation ahead of us, those who were the first graduates to work at the IBMs of this world, people who were the first to have MBAs. So those are the people we looked up to and emulated. And then lastly, throughout one's career, there's people that one admired from a distance, and then you just identify certain traits that you tried to emulate.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Any one of you can go. It's just a conversation. So if you feel like coming in, Maureen or Kus, up to you. Who wants to go first? To answer that same question, did you know in advance your passion about the issue of mentors? Who were you looking up to? Did you have such? Yeah.
Maureen, on mute.
Sorry?
Mrs. Maureen is on mute.
Okay, I'm on mute. Okay. Well, I think you will understand that in our days, in my days, when you see families that were successful, you know that it's either a nurse or a teacher or a social worker when we grew up. So I always aspired to see that I'll always also have a house that's got a red stoop, a brasso clean tap, brasso clean, windows, because those were the houses that stood out where we grew up, and you knew that is a nurse or a teacher or a principal, etc. So I always desired that, but my passion has always been people. And it was people in such an extent that I always wanted to see the betterment of people, see the better version of people. So my desire was to become a nurse or a social worker or a teacher. I wanted to become that, but specifically a nurse because I wanted, that whole thing of serving and helping, But unfortunately, I was in a car accident and nursing then became not something I wanted, but I then followed my stream. Remember, as I grew up, I was in the retail world doing my casualing, and I could see leadership, and I could see that you can actually impact people at all levels in retail. Because at the graduate schools of business, by the way, I studied retailing. Because you're not just impacting the lives of your staff that report to you. It's every person that walks in. In one of the retail companies, I was taught that in particular Truett's, because that was the best one those days. I was taught that we're not selling clothes here. We're selling confidence. Because when I sell a shoe or an outfit to Mkhuseli or to Thulani, they want to look very nice and very sophisticated. and that gives them confidence. So we used to sell confidence to the people. And I wanted to impact people that positively, because you all know that part of what apartheid did to people was to kill the confidence. Because once you've got confidence, there is nothing that can stop you to survive and to be successful. And so because of my casual work and the people I report to and the leaders I had, sales, Cadbury's, ABC, Edgar's, etc., I then desired to be in leadership where I can impact people's lives in such a way that they can move to the next level.
Okay.
And it happened like that. So my mentors was really the nurse, the mama and the papa in the township, where they could take their house and keep it clean and look after their families. And mothers that were single mothers, that were nurses, that used to sit in the houses and bring up the children and with a small salary, but there was progress in that house. And I always told myself, my life must have progress. And that is why today I'm in leadership, and I've been very fortunate in leadership. I had the best mentors and the best coaches, and I'll talk later about them when I talk about my career. Okay, all right, that's good. Now you mentioned quite a bit about the nurses and the teachers and the mothers who were looking after this. Can you just, in brief terms, I know we're going to come back to it, talk to us about this women's leadership network that you are now busy with at McDonald's? How does it work? Well, at McDonald's, more than 60% of our employees, I'm proud to say, are women. In our restaurants, in our corporate office, more than 60%. So there's a lot of, in fact, McDonald's is a very special place because it's a lot of people that is ordinary people, but their lives were catapulted, through the fact that, I know this is short time. It's not enough time for me to tell you about this, because in America and other countries, because McDonald's is global, people go there and work because by a job, or they do what I did when I was casualing. Yes, but in South Africa, the person that's ordinary in the township, because when we build restaurants, we ensure that 60% of the people employed are from the Thulani, ordinary lives. Today, they are our regional managers, operations managers, staying in bigger houses than me, driving bigger cars. And they give the children the best education. So that means there is progress. So a lot of those people are women. So what we have decided, part of the fact that McDonald's is doing is that to say, because we've got 60% of our women, do we have a platform to even empower them more, but also to see how do we help them to be better leaders, and access other opportunities within the company. So recently, you'll see, or you can check it on Facebook. Recently, we built a restaurant, the first glass box in Pretoria. It's called Semi Marks, and we dedicated that restaurant to all the women of McDonald's, because in that restaurant there was a project manager, there was an architect, there was a woman that's an architect that drew the plans, there was a project manager that looked after the project, there's a restaurant manager, there's an operational manager, and so we dedicated to show our purpose and our seriousness of developing women within McDonald's. So that is what the women's leadership is all about, really to see the women to grow and to see how do we help them to become better leaders in the organization, even outside of the organization. We're going to come back. We're going to come back to that. I just want now to go back to Kus to ask the same question about the passion that he found it. Did you find it early? Because was it, just like these other guys, feeling that, listen, let's move. I know what I want to do.
Thank you, Kajen. I think for me, I had a passion. I really wanted to become a doctor, and I was very clear that that's what I wanted to do. I believed up until standard 9 that I was gifted in mathematics, because we did not necessarily have the best teachers, especially in high school. But that was clearly exposed in matric, because we did not have, we had teachers who did not even understand calculus. We used to figure things out together on the board to solve problems together with the teachers. So my maths was really and truly exposed in matric. And I do want to say, I am a typical person that you referred to, who grew up in a situation where academically it was a little bit hopeless. grew up in a family, a big family, as I indicated, grew up in a township. Cape Town, Dr. Matigiza came from the Eastern Cape. He was not necessarily a person that we could look up to. So I wanted to become a doctor. My maths was exposed in matric. I do want to mention this. I had an opportunity or options because UCT, together with University of Western Cape, offered classes to us from disadvantaged school, but they were on Saturdays. So my friends attended. And there I made a decision and a choice that as a Seventh-day Adventist, I subscribe to the law that says keep the Sabbath holy. And I was clear, mathematics or no mathematics, I'm not going to attend any classes on Sabbath, to which my friends did not agree nor understand. And making that choice then meant that I failed matric dismally. I remember I received a letter from Medunsa where I was accepted for medicine. I was very excited because based on my June results, and came December, maths bottomed out completely. And then my dreams were shattered. I then, my journey and my life then changed completely. I do want to say, if I have to compare myself with my wife, again, in terms of role play, having a passion and a dream and following it through. My wife always wanted to be a lawyer, and she went through a ladder, as you had put it, climbed the ladder, high school, graduated, became an attorney, practiced, and got married and lived happily ever after. My life was not like that. From wanting to become a doctor to driving taxis so that you can find your education at UCT, studying retail management at UNISA. I've got something in common with you, sis Maureen. I studied retail management. I spent 6 years within the Ultra Group. And very few people can tell me about clothing, especially about women's clothing and design. I've worked for two of the best in South Africa, and I could actually do quite a lot in terms of clothing. But what am I saying, Kakena? I'm saying I was fortunate in having very good friends where we motivated each other. Those were my heroes. On Nicholas Damane, they were younger than me, but he then joined the eldership group. So it was like Thulani, where he basically looked up. He's the age of my younger brother, but he was basically one of my friends. So we had good friends where we had we motivated each other. Remember, one of my friends, his dream was to drive a Mercedes. My dream was to drive a BMW. So education was my means of making sure that I can drive my BM. So we motivated each other. We fought. When I passed matric, some of them went to UCT, and unfortunately, because they started on Sabbath, I was driving taxis. But as a taxi driver, talking to the passion Kakeni, I knew that I was a taxi driver in order to fund my education. So that never stopped. At the rank, I used to do my assignments at the back of the seat. The back seat whilst I'm waiting to load, being at the rank early hours of the morning, 3 a.m., and maybe leaving at about 8:30 to go and attend some of the classes. So that basically defined me. I had a very big heart, a very big dream, which meant that I needed to have very little sleep. To date, I sleep between 4 and 5 hours because I am used to doing more than one thing in terms of making sure that I can drive my passion. I do want to mention, though, I was fortunate that being part of Langa Church had a very, very significant impact in my academic life. There were people that came from all over South Africa, from Venda, from Joburg, or I can mention some of the guys. They came to study at UCT. And I had a problem in that the only blacks who studied at UCT were not from Cape Town. All the other blacks would come in, would worship together, they would live with degrees. No blacks were attending UCT, and that bothered me. And out of anger, it really motivated me that I needed, yes, I don't have money, I don't have means, but I need to have these degrees. We can't have all these guys coming in, getting good degrees in accounting, in medicine, and they are not from Cape Town. So when we had our HCA, Mr. Litanyonya, I was so happy and so proud, and I knew that I'm going to pass. Let me conclude, Katiani, by saying, I went to UC University, I funded. I saw Thulani debit and credit for the first time at university, which I funded myself because I went and did commerce. I saw a ledger at university for the first time with no background. And I graduated in finance, a BBA, with finance as my major and strategy. And I went on to do quite a number of other degrees. And I think God has helped me in the process. And my friends also, I do want to say, they played a significant role in making sure that we can motivate each other, because most of us have actually achieved things that were greater than what we had ever thought that we could actually do. So in terms of mentors, Gatlin, as I said, it was just ordinary people, and that basically gave me that reason to fight, and mainly the guys that came from all over to get the degrees, and I knew that I wanted to get, and I knew that it was not going to be a degree in biblical studies. I wanted a degree that was meaningful for me, which is mainly in finance, accounting, and those things, because I wanted to impact the world in some way.
Wow. Sure. This is really powerful, guys. I'm telling you. You know, I'm also reminded of a conversation I had conducted by a friend of mine, Pastor Kotela. He was talking to the lawyer, what's his name now? Just forget his name, but he was studying at UNITRA. He said, there's nothing as powerful as seeing someone like you in front of you. In other words, you are talking about a ledger that you have never experienced in your life, but to come and sit at university. It's just an amazing kind of thing that we're coming out from all these backgrounds without all those experiences, but there are people who inspired us from a distance. So thank you so much for that. Now, let me just ask all of you about, I mean, we've talked about the fact that you went to do studies at university or graduate school of business, whatever the case may be. But what about the role of personal learning, personal development, personal study about whatever area of life? But how do you feel that it has worked in your life? Thulani?
Happy to start.
Yeah.
I truly believe that education and knowledge is not confined to a classroom environment. And if I'm being honest, most of my lessons were outside the classroom. And there are things that I chose to do, to use your language, of personal learning. For example, you know, early in my career, I realized a strange thing that kwenzeka kanjani ukuthi I can speak for an hour in English and I cannot address people in Zulu for an hour. And for me, it was not right. And as part of my personal learning, I started listening to Radio Zulu. As part of my personal learning, I availed myself to interpret in church when people were wanting to translate from English to Zulu. And I started reading books, the Zulu and so forth, to a point where now I am fluent in Zulu, and I can make a presentation if I choose Zulu. But I'm mentioning this in particular because there was a misconception ukuthi uma ufundile sibona nge-English. Undermined languages zethu. But the notion of personal learning for me has been part of my agenda. And with the evolution of technology, really there's no excuse for no personal learning, I must say. A lot of what I learned today is on LinkedIn or on TED Talks or in books. And even books that I don't have time to finish, I get book summaries, you can get book audios and so forth. So I'm a huge, huge believer in personal learning and just perpetual growth, you know, as a mindset.
Okay, all right, Maureen? Please, yeah.
I think with me, it's more the desire of wanting to know, the hunger to want to know. And therefore, for example, I remember one of the last programs I did at Wits Graduate School, Wits Business School, Graduate School of Business, Wits. I was not nominated for that at work. And I went to my then line manager and I said to my line manager, listen, man, I want to know about this entrepreneurship course because McDonald's is very entrepreneurship. They empower you how to run a business, etc. And I wanted to empower myself so that I can know even beyond McDonald's, I can have that skill. And I went to my boss, and I was turned down by the person that was going to was actually nominating, or rather in charge of that program. And I went to ask, and my boss was so kind, and he wrote a motivation as to why I must. Is that hunger to want to empower yourself? And as Thulani says, there's really no excuse, because everything is on the internet, is available on the internet. If you want to know about marketing, you want to know about this, you can read up on it. But also it is the hunger to want to humble yourself and go to others and ask about what you know, what you don't know. And also, obviously, I am very fortunate that I've got brilliant and powerful mentors and coaches, that if a subject like strategy, like Mkhuseli Mbomvu after this, strategy, I want to know more about, I will go to that person. Did he tell me more about strategy? How, whatever. And I am not afraid to be vulnerable, because my hands are different. So there's no ways I'm going to know everything.
Yes,
your hands are different. My father used to say, everybody do two things. Everybody, there's no human being that's more superior than you. No human being. Everybody do two things. They eat and they do whatever. So my father used to say, so therefore, every human being is equal to you, but they have got more wisdom or more knowledge. Go to them. You can be vulnerable. It doesn't matter. Even, you know what? Do you know what McDonald's? McDonald's is a powerful company that I was a provincial group schemes manager at Standard Bank. I went to McDonald's, and then I was taught how to use a mop. My staff used to call me, "Can't you leave the bank to McDonald's to do burgers and the mop?" But I went for 6 months working in a restaurant, and I was taught by ordinary crew staff. And I used to go to them, "Didi, show me how you lay this meat. Show me how you do this mop." Because I wanted to understand the psychological impact it's got every day.
How this thing is working.
So that when I lead them, I understand how that mop is affecting their body, or I understand how it tires them. Therefore, I will understand how long a person should work and do that mop work. You understand? So it is about being vulnerable. Coaching or mentorship is both upwards and even people that's below you. And that is what I do. I ask all the time because I am hungry to learn. I spoke to one of my ex-bosses, and we talk about employing the 3 H's, and I wanted to talk later about this, employing the 3 H's of being hungry and being hungry to know. And then, as you are hungry, as that, and honor these people that teaches you, and then being, and the humility in you to want to know more, and to be vulnerable with your people. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, you're going to walk away empowered.
Wow.
So empowerment is available all the time. Learning is available all the time in the internet, with people. Just lastly, my GPS has always been the guy that works in the garage. How do I get there? Turn right, turn left, turn this and this. That was my GPS. It's only now that I use my phone as a GPS. So that is also self-learning.
Okay, wow. That's fascinating stuff. I mean, what's coming out here. In fact, when Maureen, Kumbula, one time, you took us, a group of us, Notando, where you showed us how you guys were working in the thing. I think there was something called 8 or something.
Open doors.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's called open
you took
doors,
us to see that. Okay. All right. Okay. Who has not responded to this question? I'm confused now. The conversation is so hot. Yes,
I feel like listening to the others. I have been fortunate that the first teacher was my mother.
Yes.
And as if my mother knew that we were not going to be together for a very long time, I spent very short years with my mother earlier on in life. And she said something about us. She said, "My child, there's many of you. And each and every one of you, so in life, you need to understand indoba umqheba walona undawo, so that you can handle each person. Because you can be saying the right thing, but if can upset and damage the relationship forever. So that lesson has taught me a lot, and it has actually empowered me. I landed my first managerial job in 1997 at Old Mutual, in a financial services company, where I needed to manage people that have actually been there for 20 years. As you know, that people land, and most of them were not necessarily my color. They were white, and we came in as black young managers, and every door was closed. And that lesson of saying, how do I find umqheba of these people? I need to learn from them. They've got something I don't know. They've got technical expertise. I am coming here. I am black, different to them. They speak a language I don't understand, because Afrikaans was quite big those years. So I needed to be humble enough to basically get closer to them and self-taught. I basically, So continuous learning the financial services industry, if I can just put it like that, you cannot survive in that industry without a hunger for knowledge. Things change. I always say to people, the economics textbook that I studied, COVID threw it away, and we needed to kind of actually adapt and relearn. So continuous learning, and as Thulani said earlier on, that learning is not in the classroom. You need to find people that you are working with. You need to learn from your environment. But as a black person, you cannot afford not to be on top of your game. If you are complacent, you think that because you are black, things are going to come your way. And my father also said to us, my father was a mechanic. And one of the things that he has taught me, which has helped me as well, Kachen, is a process. When you are assembling an engine, there is a process of actually building the engine from the bottom up and making sure that each part of the engine goes to its place. You cannot put one before the other. There's a sequence that you follow, even when you're setting up the engine. So that process-based approach in learning, and also in managing and leading, and in also even in a relationship, because we are married, we've got children, it has really, really helped me that you need to understand the process, and the process will guide you in decoding some of the information. So learning, self-taught, self-driven. I started through UNISA, working it during the day, also studying at night, and even people in church, in environments. And one of the biggest learnings, if I can just put it, for the past 7 years, I was CEO of an organization, Mine Workers Provident Fund. I was working with unionists, I was working with directors of companies and investments, a different sphere of people. I learned a lot from unionists, some who have never been to school, and where you need to come in with all your degrees, you have to learn from this. And also, I want to mention, Gajeni, that there is something that has always been a problem in South Africa, where a black person's intellect has been measured by his or her ability to speak English. And yes, if you can, your English is actually quite good, then you're intelligent. If your words are not following the right sequence, you're stupid. That environment, I went to that university where I've met the most intelligent people who cannot speak English well, but they've taught me so much about life, about finance, and about coming up with solutions that can actually change the financial prospects of South Africans by merely just spending time with those people. So learning is not in the classroom, and you can learn from the people that maybe you wouldn't have actually thought that you can actually gain something from them. Sure.
Wow. Well, I just want to look at some of the Facebook inputs here. Thank you so much, guys. And just be prepared, because we're now going to go. We started with the personal issue, with the personal lives and so on, schooling and so on. Now, I do want to ask you about the corporate. I mean, we've talked about the corporate sector, but how do you keep balance with family? How do you keep healthy? How do you maintain that? Because I understand that corporate can be so hectic as well. So we're going to get there now, but I just want to read a couple of messages here. There are people who are watching. Sabelo Dwacha, Tlanganisa says, great talk, frank talk. Zinhle, a home with a red stoop was best. Maureen, especially new brides, as a cost in a pie. Nula Mafani says, we don't sell clothes, but confidence. Wow. That's really powerful right there. And then Umamiki Melane says, powerful, hey? And Patko Mafani says, true, Cape Town has always best schools, but for decades it seemed as if those were not for Black Capetonians. Great to see this is changing and has role models championing it. Noma Wetu is watching, again, who's in the come back, and again, Ujoaka is saying it's motivating to see corporate leaders like Gaba, Thulani, and Maureen. Please, people that we know, this gives us hope that Africans, we can do it. What are you guys doing to transform corporate SA 26 years after democracy? Thank you so much for this conversation. Your wife, Mbomvu, is watching, you can see here. All right, but lots of people that are watching. And by the way, if there are people here on Zoom who may want to ask one or two questions, we'll provide that opportunity. You can also write your questions or your comments here on the chat line. But we just want to make sure that we get their responses on how do you relax, how do you chill out, how do you maintain a balance? Because I know of people who's sitting in these high glassy offices for hours and hours every day, and they don't have any life outside of that. They can't balance. So how do you guys balance? Let's start with you, Tools. Can you unmute your computer there?
Sure,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
The balance layer can be elusive at times. But I've always been intent about it. I remember when my kids were young, it came to a point where, I love music. I've sung, most of my time. I used to sing with the Stasa Chorale. We used to practice half a day on a Sunday. And at some point I said, hey, and before I know it, they'll be old. And I decided that, you know what, my Sundays are going to be family time. And I told the guys, I enjoy what I'm doing, but this is it, I'm out. And it was the best decision. So typically Sundays when my kids were younger, I would just ask in the morning, and then, we would follow what they do. Now that they are older, I do carve out my own time. This morning I went riding a motorbike. It's something that I try to do, often a couple of times a month. I enjoy photography. It's something that I started at Eskolweni to raise funds. Cell phones zazingekho then.
Yes.
Were not many. So I used to take fellow students, take them pictures, and then process them, and then for a fee, exchange them. So it's something that I've kept up. I still sing.
Thulani, just before you move, just before you move forward, you're reminding me that, when we saw each other at Stasa, those years when we used to go, you must be certain that I got there because of taking people's pictures at school. I was a budding photographer as well, and I would also sell ginger beer.
It is so important, and actually, it's so important. This thing of hustling and raising income that I would really encourage people to do that. And I still sing, as I mentioned, but my biggest stress outlet is exercising. I go to gym 3 times a week. And that's how I let out my stress. And then I do prioritize holidays. I enjoy traveling big time. It's my treat to the family. So we do try to have a family holiday at least once a year.
Okay, wow, thank you. Maureen, how do you balance life, work, and other social issues? Can you unmute? Yeah, that's it.
I must say, I want to be very honest. I struggle with this thing, balancing. I struggled.
You're not alone.
I want to be very honest. It's work, My life is work, church, my family. But, you know, at the beginning, in fact, my children are still blaming me today. It was just work, because as I said, and we discussed this always with a very special mentor of mine, I employ these 3 H's, which is hardworking. You know, I spoke to you about being humility. I spoke to you,
hunger.
You know, about
hunger.
being hungry to know. Those are my 3 H's that I employ. And my H of hard work sometimes overpowers me, you know, but because you know, I love my God very much. Sorry, guys, you know, my God, my creator, I love him so much. So I spend a lot of time doing prayer walks. I will walk wherever I'm known. You can phone somebody wherever I worked at Standard Bank, Thulani. You can go and ask them. They're in the Western Cape. They knew me. Before I get to my desk, I pray. I pray at my desk. People will moan, and I said, this is my desk. This is my property. So my life is all about, I do a lot, even the vicinity where I stay here. I always believe that I must impact the vicinity with the gift that God has given me. So I do prayer walks around, and I do declarations. There will be no crime here. There will be no this. I do that. So I do prayer walks.
Okay.
I spend time alone. I spend time, weekends is for me and my children. But during the week, I must be very honest.
You're at work.
Hard work. I'm at work all the time. But I'm very fortunate. I've been very fortunate, you know, and I know this is from God, Mkhuseli. Wherever I worked, I had the opportunity to travel overseas. And that will give me time also to explore and unwind and explore other things. For example, I was speaking to my CEO one day and I said to him, you know, when I was at Standard Bank, I said to God, I'm going to travel through Standard Bank to Thulani. And I was always, I don't know whether they still have it at Standard Bank to Thulani. I always used to be part of the oh, Nkosiam, what is that program, Thulani, Nkosiam?
Of excellence.
It's called something else, man. Oh, Nkosiam, anyway.
But that took me
through the whole of Europe and Asia. And when I arrived at Mtonintshi, yabona bawo apha kenzo America apha. Because I've never had the money to do that. And then when they send me to America and other countries, I said to my CEO, I did say to God, this is what your company going to do for me. I'm going to have access to these countries through when. And but balancing, I must be honest, struggling with it. But weekends is my children and church and my prayer walks and impacting the vicinity where, because of my culture of wanting to impact wherever I am, I then do my things like my prayer walks, my walkings and all that. So that's how I unwind, and I do a little bit of reading a book. Like for instance, you know, I love books. Like I'm currently reading a book. I'll tell you later what that book is.
Okay, all right. We're gonna get there. Jobi, kasichazele mfondini kwelakho icala.
Hey, Kachen, that's a lovely subject. One of the things, I'm a keen cyclist. I've done the August 13 years. The August cycle tour. I cycle everywhere. Whenever I get a holiday, I always make sure that in that country I get a bike. I've got 2 bikes. Yes, 2 bicycle, motors, everything. There's provision for a bicycle that is in Cape Town, because I work for a company that is based in Cape Town. So I work in Cape Town during the week, and I'm in Joburg sometime, but mostly I'm in Cape Town. So I cycle, but what I do, I also took certain decisions as well earlier on that I used to practice as well, sing, practice, whatever. I needed to prioritize and get out of certain things. But also in terms of cycling, when I go for a ride, I would go for 4 hours sometimes. So I needed to make sure that that does not actually impact family life. So I wake up very early in the morning and I would go for my ride. By 9 o'clock, I'm back and life at home continues. So I don't disturb anybody in terms of my exercise. But I also find the gift that we've been given, the gift of the Sabbath, as one of those things that really and truly helps me to relax. And I do want to share this with young people. I always say, I never want to use God's gifts that He has actually given to me as excuses not to serve Him. I mean, I was working 5 days a week away, and then coming, I was a head elder of a church, and I wanted to make sure that I do it to the best of my ability, because I can't use my job, which is a gift that God has given me, the fact that I'm traveling and working away, and say, I can't then work for you because you've given me this job. And I always say to young people as well, even when we started having children, we needed to give them their time, but we also needed to prioritize making sure that God comes first in terms of what we do. So Sabbath, or the gift of Sabbath, gives me a relaxation of if one time I forgot, Gakeni, to go to the funeral of my best friend's mom. And unfortunately, preacher, and he had bragged to everybody that my friend who goes to church is going to preach, because the preacher did not preach up. I did not preach. Started going to church, and I was going to go to the funeral, sneak out. I forgot. So I lose my mind when I come to Sabbath.
Okay.
And I forget my reset button.
Okay. Wow. The time is moving so fast, guys. But we're having a great time here. I really enjoy this conversation that you are sharing, different kinds of balancing, because people drop dead, people are unhealthy, families break down and all of that, simply because we don't create space. It's amazing the kind of things that you guys do at various times just to energize yourself. Maureen is talking about prayer walks, talking about riding, family holidays, and all of that. We are learning because some of us are struggling with this balance. We are struggling with this thing. We want to learn how to do it. Thulani, you want to say something?
Yeah, and I think I want to advance a view that says there isn't such a thing as a perfect life balance. For me, what I've accepted rather is that wherever I am fully present. I would rather spend a quality hour with my son and being there, not being distracted by work. I think that's far more effective. But also, when there's certain things happening at school, if I'm not there, I don't beat myself up because I am not there. I think sometimes we create unnecessary strain, thinking that we can have this perfect balance. I think it's about making choices of what's important and when is it important. But when you make a choice to pursue that, to be fully present and do it completely.
Wow. Let me also come in again. Yeah, let me come in, because Thulani is raising a very critical point around this issue of balance. I must confess that when my children were younger, we truly and honestly robbed them, because that was the time that we were truly building. One was studying, both my wife and I are corporate executives, and even though she always made it a point that she basically is there, whatever, between certain times, my wife would not compromise, but I did compromise a bit when they were young, I must be honest, and I robbed them. And it also took us to have some conversations and understanding in terms of where do you come in, to have an understanding wife and partner and friend. It helps you. Well, sometimes when that balance goes, sometimes you don't even realize when that balance is really, really getting completely out of sync. Then we had an agreement that we will remind each other, we will assist each other, and we want to grow corporately, but we also don't want to neglect some of the important. But Thulani, there is no such thing as a perfect balance. Some days you prioritize one over the other, but if you have an understanding, then it really helps because the other party basically comes in and covers for you here and there.
Wow, thank you so much. And by the way, this program itself by nature is not necessarily a Christian or religious platform, but it does happen that, I hear you speaking a lot about your Christian heritage. It means that it's a big thing for you. Can you just tell us a bit more about that? Thulani, maybe we'll start with you. You talk about church, you talk about choirs. What role, what values did you bring from that church heritage into your current or into your corporate life? How does that help you as a person, especially as a corporate leader?
Yeah, no, I think that's an important question. And at the premise of my response is a view that says, as human beings, we are not compartmentalized. There is one person. There is hardly a personal life Thulani and a work Thulani. There's one Thulani. So our upbringing and the values we hold, they just manifest in everything that we do. As a Christian, it's been a fundamental influence. It shapes how I view the world. It shapes how I make decisions at work. It shapes how I treat people, and so forth. And the biggest thing in my Christian values has always been trust in God. Throughout my career, whether even at school, my favorite text is Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. I've always believed that I can be as talented and as skilled as I am. That will give me things that I can do. But there's a huge component that only God can do and I can't do for myself. That I've always embraced. And throughout my career, I've had opportunities that are amazing. And all of them, it's doors that opened without my pushing. And that I attribute to God and God alone. I can cite one example. In 1999, after about 16 years of working for American consumer goods companies, I decided that I'm going to leave this industry and I'm going to change. It was now 2009. And when I made that decision, I reported and we agreed to separate. After I had done that, we went into a recession. I was like, Nkosi yami Thulani kanti uplana kanjani? Cut the long story short, I had planned to give myself 3 months to rest and also to find another job. The first 2 months, it was complete drought. Anything that I applied to, it was just not happening. But I can tell you, in God's time, in a period of 2 weeks, I had 5 offers.
Sure.
That cannot be a human being's making. But it was God showing up at his time and at a time when I realized that this I cannot do for myself. And I have countless examples. So for me, trust in God is key. Values of kindness, it's something that are part of my Christian upbringing. Values of gentleness, indeed. The one that I still need grace to grow is that of patience. I am working on it, and by grace, I will get better at
it. Fortunately, it's a gift, so you can ask for the gift. Let me just, before I go to you, Maureen. Let me just read here. People that are watching, Williams-Mtonintshi, Vuyopana, Obongiwe Mbunge, Lungela Nekile Babalwa. Usomila is saying, and sometimes this Maureen and prayer walks zakhe. And thinking Masiba or Zama, and then Ubongiwe Mbunge saying no, and the declaration, she's my girl. Tando Melan is saying, isn't the Pastor Tando, isn't the unbalance that Maureen is going through a reflection of what single parents have to go through as you grow in the world of work to succeed? There's also Luyanda. So maybe you can start there, this part of single parenting and this issue, and then you can move, Maureen, to how the whole Christian heritage permeates your outlook in your work, in your career growth, and so on. And then we come to you, Mjo.
Hey, Pat, there's not enough time for all this thing that I want to say. But first of all, let me quickly remind everybody. Thulani, I spoke about it's called the Kwezi Kulu Stars Awards that I won for 5 years in a row at Standard Bank. Yeah, and it was the top 1% in Standard Bank. So you can ask your CEO, Sim. I was at Sim in London, in the London office. So finish with that. Enough of that. But very important is that it's not easy to be a single parent. But just like Thulani is saying that by God's grace, by God's grace, all the mamas that used to look after my children, when I employ a person as a helper in my house, they're not a maid, they're a helper, and therefore they're part of the family, and I respect them. My father was not a born-again Christian like me. I'm a born-again Christian. But my father brought me up with values. My father used to say, a person is a person because of other people. My father used to say, let respect go ahead of you and you must follow. My father used to say, give people food, cook and give people food, because soon that food is something else, And my father used to say, Mkhuseli, there's not enough time here to tell you about my story, what happened to me at Truett's. One of my mentors, Mr. Tate, I can speak about this. But my father used to say, don't take what is not yours. If you take a 2 cent, you'll take a 2 rand. If you take a 2 rand, you'll take a 20 rand. My father used to say, and that helped me in the retail world. We know whoever Mkhuseli worked in the retail world, we used to have a lot of earrings for theft. I had a camera on top of me at Truett's, and I didn't know about it those days because I was an area manager for running the Free State, and I didn't know there was a camera on top of me, because one of the things I used to do is to give those days when you didn't have, the fleet cards and all that, when people come from all the areas in the Free State, I had a big safe, and I had to give them, they bring their slips, and I have to give them the petrol allowance or whatever. And I never knew. But later, one of my mentors, Mr. Tate, Brian Tate, a good man, a very dynamic executive, he then said to me, did so-and-so told you you've got a camera here? Because we had high theft in that specific restaurant. It was one of our flagship stores. And I never knew. And when you're a woman, you come in your office, you push yourself right to do everything, whatever. And that is why whenever I do, and I'll lift my skirts up, and I didn't know there's a camera on top of me, because I'm shaking myself right. Because one of the things I used to do is if you go to Truett's in Kuruman, that first store was opened by me. So I used to travel at 4 o'clock to get that, But this is what I want to tell you. I used to tell, whenever I speak to young people and to the youth, and people, and I tell them about my story, what happened to me at Truett's. But because the values at home shaped me, I don't take what is not mine. I don't do that. It's not sitting right with me. So my father's values I took my father's values, I incorporated my whole thing of being a born-again Christian. And Thulani, just like you, I struggle with one of the fruits of the Spirit. Because when you work in Babylon, because that's what workplace is, you have to employ the fruits of the Spirit. All the time. Kindness, gentleness, but patience, Nam, it's something I every day, Father, please help me. Help me. I need to be patient. One day my CEO was very angry. He says, Maureen, you like everything to happen fast, but it is just, and I've been very fortunate. My other direct line manager, my ex-direct executive, is also a person that's very fast. So I could click with him. But to have a relationship with God and the values that you get from home, it shapes your character so that when we work with people, You can employ all that. But I want to be very honest with you, Brapet. You can ask most of the born-again Christians in Cape Town, Mkhuseli, you can do that for me. Paikwalanga, they know me. If you're in Eastern Cape, in whatever, Sis Maureen, I'm a very controversial born-again Christian. Because I say to the people, I'm controversial. This is why I'm controversial. I say to the people, Mkhuseli, now, how can you treat people like nothing at work, not greet people, and even, you know, have and be arrogant and rude with people, but you've got a relationship with a loving God. So yes, I'm very assertive. I will deal with you when I have to deal with you, but I will not break a person that's already broken. My main thing at work, and that is why you need to ask yourself a question. Are you here for a purpose or are you here for a paycheck? My main thing is the 2 P's is dilapa for a purpose. And that is to bring people up and to empower people, but to bring them up, because as you bring them up, I become whole in myself because I have helped somebody else. Because I am here today, Prapet, because of many people that helped me. But this is a story I want to tell you that's very important. As you grow, especially in career, in the workplace, God intertwine you with certain powerful people that can take you to a next level. I have been very fortunate and very blessed. One day, Thulani, I also left Truworths and I said, enough of this, I'm moving back. I left Joburg. I moved back to Eastern Cape to open my own business. I had forgotten that I had given my CV to the employment agencies. Those days we had something called MAP. Maybe Mkhuseli will know about that course. It's called Management Advancement Program. I did it at Bruderstrom. It's an old course. When you do it, every retail company wants you because they know you're a powerful retailer. Do you know what, Thulani? I then came to PE. I couldn't find a job. I sat for a long time without a job. Not for a very long time, but a long time. I got a call from an executive, a senior, head in Foshini, and he said to me, "Oh, I called it because the employment agency called me to say to me, hey man, we had your CV here, Foshini." When I called this guy, this boss of mine that has now also become my mentor and my coach, he said to me, "I've been waiting for your call." I've been waiting, as if he knows me for years. I talk about when God intertwined you with people. When I went for the interview, to cut a long story short, I was also interviewed by all the top structures. They loved me. But from the day that leader said to me, "I've been waiting for your call," up to today, he's been my mentor. He's helped me to move in my career. He has advised me, he's shamboked me when I'm wrong. And that person has been a blessing in my life. That's one of my coaches. Okay. I have many coaches, and I want to call his name, Nico Jacobs. And today, part of who I am, he was one of the people that helped me to shape my character through God's gift by intertwining him with me. And he also became a born-again Christian because that's how God works. So yeah, Thulani, I'm also struggling with patience, but I'm also trying very hard, the fruits of the Spirit.
and before we come to you, Kos, I just want to put a finger here, because I think there's a point that both of you, Thulani and Maureen, have mentioned, which is critical, is that you both were at a point where you had no employment and you started to panic. But at the right time, the employment came through. It is possible that as we're now talking, there's someone who had lost his employment or her employment, who's battling, who's giving up hope. I think this message that you just shared just encourages that person up there at home to make sure that they can keep going, they can grow in their career. I just want to read, Kus, and then I come to you. There's a message here from Tato Mputi. There's a message from Stembiso Ntombela saying, "Amen, Sis Maureen." And then Queenie says, "Amen, Sis Maureen." And then Tato Mputi says, "This is amazing. The new generation always wanted to know as to how does one get on the other side of the bridge of success. It's humbling to know that today's industry leaders are ordinary people like us. Commitment, passion, hard work, self-empowerment, continuous learning, and humility. Thank you for this. And Unoma Mazibuko, Utibutuli, that's powerful. No perfect balance. Be effective where you are. And again, Queenie is coming back to say powerful conversation. Tatumputi, in God we trust. Alimange Kavenelis, Sis Maureen, a role model for putting God first for her to fulfill her role, to develop people and to make them successful wherever she goes. Thank you for that. And again, Beck, excellent example of inspirational leadership. Norma, talk about practical walk with God. So there's a lot of people that are coming back to say they are blessed by what you guys are sharing. And this is the purpose of this program, to inspire someone there, to give hope there, to motivate to people who are saying there are people like us, who look like us, who grew up like us in the similar conditions that can inspire. So Kus, let me give you the last portion of this question and then we move. I can see what you're approaching fast the time. Go ahead, Kus.
Thank you, Kajani. I feel that it is a privilege for me to be talking today. And there are people that knows me for a very long time. And I cannot lie on this platform. Like people like Onzigi, they know me since I was in nappies. Her father used to take me and put me on his shoulders and run away to Jamda with me. And as a little small boy.
Wow.
I grew up in a situation where if I look where I am, I'm not saying I'm successful. I'm saying when I look at where I am and where I was, I cannot reconcile the two. There is no amount of education that can help me to explain how did this thing happen, except to say I live a life of gratitude. I mean, there are many blunders that I've made, which some of the people on this platform, they are very much aware of, that could have derailed my life completely. But God actually took me through. And I do want to say, Kajeni, therefore, that has shaped me in terms of whatever opportunity that I am given. I am grateful because I know that it has got nothing to do with my qualifications. It has got nothing to do with my expertise, but God is giving me a platform to dance. And I'm always conscious and aware that the period that I'm given to dance on that platform is limited. And therefore, I need to do the best that I can, knowing that from being a good steward, I don't own the platform. I am just given that platform to dance for that particular moment. There is a song that I like very much, and I always share it with my children. It's written and sung by Steve Green. It says, may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the footprints that we leave help them to obey. And that to me is fundamental. When I'm sitting in that boardroom, we have privileges of sitting with the highest people in the land as we shape the policy around finance and so forth. But I always say, may all those who come behind me, having sat on this chair, have a difference in these people. I'm not going to preach to them, but may my life have an impact on them. Lastly, again, I do want to say, I am truly and honestly inspired by building. I'm a builder. I love building houses. I love building people and characters. I love looking at projects that are hopeless, even in other people, where they come to these companies. People are given psychometric tests to write and they fail them. And I look at something around these people and I say, give me a chance and I will employ these people. We'll work together. And some of those people have become the best contributors in the financial services industry. So that has been my passion, where I always want, where I am given a space, I always want God to allow me to use me so that I can empower others and give them a chance. I do want to mention that I've actually made an impact. Sisnondando Dube gave me my first senior leadership position, and in an investment company where it was it was black, white, African, every door was closed. I came in as a senior executive in there, and I made an impact because God helped me, but she opened the door and gave me the chance, similar to Daman as well. And then those are the people that I'm saying God uses people. Some of us, when we're given positions of leadership, we kick the ladder. Once we are there, we climb the corporate ladder, we kick it, and we never open doors. We fear
corruption.
Yes, we fear corruption. And I want to say, when you have been given an opportunity, it is not corrupt to find other people doing the right way. They must apply. They must go through the normal process. Once they are in, you mentor them, you nurture them, because it can't just be about Mkhuseli, not Thulani, no Sis Maureen. We have to open doors for other people. So religion has helped me to say, one thing about salvation, there is never enough to say that now the door is closed, you can't evangelize. So even in corporate, there is never enough to give the most vulnerable, those who may sometimes have never have a chance, to give them an opportunity. So that's what God has helped me. And yes, we've got shortcomings and whatever, but I believe that God has given us an opportunity to dance. It is going to lapse. The question that I always ask myself, when you had that platform and that floor, who will come 10, 15 years time and say, because Mkhuseli was here and I now also have a chance. And that is basically what I believe that I'm trying within the financial services industry.
Okay.
Again, I do want to have some, we are running out of time. Yes. One of the things that you've asked about COVID, in terms of what has actually been the impact, I do want to share it in this platform, that the example or the parable or the whatever that you want to refer it, we've given a verse in the Bible where we are taught that we need to learn from the end. What COVID has done, it has exposed some of the basic things of being bad stewards, where people living above their means. Of course, there are reasons and everything. Being a finance person, being a Christian, I do want to say we were exposed in a very bad way. And I hope and pray that the journey now, because I'm also very much busy with financial well-being and empowerment in terms of helping our nation, because we are heavily indebted, even as Christians, where we can't actually even worship God honestly and truly, simply because of these heavy burdens, and burdened by things we don't need, the BMWs that we don't need, and basically now we can't worship, we can't be truthful. To your point, Sis Maureen, we then live beyond our means, we begin to steal simply because we cannot actually do things right. My message to everybody, COVID has leveled the playing field, it has exposed, and I'm praying that we can end from the end. That saving is never enough. And even if you're earning a very, very small amount, we cannot live beyond our means, because our faith will be impacted. Our careers, there are people who have lost their jobs because they've taken things that do not belong to them, because they've failed to live beyond their means. And I thought that, let me sneak that one in again.
I think
it's one of the as well.
I think, Nozinga, what you've done is basically nicely went to where I wanted to go, because I wanted just to combine Joacha's question about transformation, you know, in other words, leaving legacy internally within the corporates, to make sure that as you blaze through the trail, there are people who also come that and occupy that space and learn from you. So you've talked about that, but I'm going to give the other colleagues a chance to speak about that, but also the question about COVID. COVID has changed everything. You know, can you just make comments as we are fast approaching the end of this thing? And the last question I'm going to ask from you is to just distill some lessons that you can share with a young corporate lady who is starting off at some place somewhere, who is saying, I want to make it. What must that person be thinking about? What kind of skills might they be developing? Or what can you say to them? So let's start with the transformation question, and then we get to COVID, and then we look at these lessons. And Kus, by the way, Umamiki Melane, she's asking that song by Green. That song, please, the name of the song. What did you say is the name of the song? Okay, you'll remember it. You'll remember it. Okay. Let's go to you, Sis Maureen. And as Sis Maureen is trying to unmute there, I just want to read here. Okay, I just want to read something here that that Queen is saying. I'm here for a purpose or a paycheck. Shoo, says profile. Then there's Thulani Sibeko, our guest. He's saying that Sis Nondando Dube, who gave Mkhuseli the first managerial role, was my accounting teacher from grade 12 to from grade 10 to grade 12. The small world indeed. It's amazing, eh? You know, that's good to hear that. Over to you, Sis Maureen.
Thank you very much, Prapet. I think I'm going to start with COVID-19. I wanted to say, Mkhuseli has spoken very profoundly, but I just wanted to add to say, Utiba, for me, COVID has made me to be more self-aware. It has brought awareness of so many things, like Mkhuseli said. But COVID has also, again, reaffirmed to us that Ubuntu is important. The spirit of Ubuntu is not just a saying word. We need one another. And from a business point of view, is that we are all in this together to change the economy of this country. So it had to take companies like, you know, I remember, and I hope he's not going to shambok me, my CEO had to put together a document for all the QSRs, because, you know, he's a very powerful and very knowledgeable person, because it had to be standing together. You couldn't work in isolation. So collaboration was needed to actually say, how do we make sure that we ensure the livelihoods of everybody, that we stand together to really serve the customer and the people out there, but also to ensure that jobs are maintained and to ensure the livelihood of the people. People had to collaborate and stand together. So for me, COVID-19 has reminded us about the spirit of Ubuntu at the personal level and even at the business level. That's for me. Going to how I can encourage, I don't exactly remember what you said about transformation.
Okay, I think the question was, what can current corporate executives who are already there do to achieve transformation?
Very important question. That's a long question. It needs a program on its own, Prapet, if I can.
Yes.
Because if I can be it's a huge conversation. Because the question is, if I am an operations director at McDonald's South Africa today and in the now, what am I doing to bring others up with me? What am I doing, as Mkhuseli is saying, to build people? Sometimes it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder, but it's about climbing your own journey. What do we do as, are we there and we sit in boardrooms not representing our people, but it's all about me coming for my paycheck here? Do they ask myself, what is my purpose up? Because as Mkhuseli is saying, it's not going to be for long. And what legacy are you going to leave? So for me, it's that whole thing of us. We must ask ourselves, am I here for a purpose? Am I here for a paycheck? Yes, the paycheck will come. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody wants to be paid. But if you execute your purpose, and if you know when you employ the fruits of the Spirit, if you're this born-again Christian or a Christian, or any religion for that matter, what is it that you are doing on a daily basis to fulfill your purpose, to bring others up? What are the conversations you are having with other leaders to ensure that there's a conducive environment that people can work in, where they can flourish and use their talents and their gifts to make this company flourish? You know, Prapet, I want to say to you, and I want to say to us all, we are human beings.
Yes.
But we are spiritual beings, I promise you. We live in this body. This is the cupboard so that you can sit down. And we've got a soul, which is the mind. We've got the soul, right? You know what? When a person, an evil person, or a person that is cruel, work in an environment, you feel the spirit of that environment being condensed by that person's spirit. It doesn't matter, they don't have to say anything, because it's the way they carry themselves, the way they look at other people, the way they see that nobody's good enough in this company except them. But unfortunately, we will find those kind of people. You know, we will find those kind of people. It is for us just to say, how do we help and maneuver to realize and ensure that in the corner that you're working, or in the collaboration meeting that you're working, you encourage a spirit of where people can flourish and grow, and recognition is given to people. You spoke about the WLN. Part of the WLN is the 4 R's, We look, the WL, the Women's Leadership Network, we look at representation of people. How are they represented? What do I do to let them rise? How do we recognize them? What platforms have we got to reach them all the time? Those are the 4 pillars, the gender pillars that we work with, you know. Lastly, my advice to a younger corporate or a younger person that's still going to go into the corporate world. The corporate world is not any place. I'm telling you, it's Babylon. I promise you. And you know, Pastor Seth used to say, "Wena uphethe ntoni, what have you got? What have you got in your hand? Uphethe ntoni." So I did speak about the purpose and the paycheck. I want now to say that you ask yourself a question: why am I here? What must I do? How must I do it? And the how for me is to employ those 3 H's to say, when you walk into a company, employ the H of hardworking. Employ the age of being of humility.
Humility, yes.
You know, of humility.
And hunger.
Employ the age of being hungry for knowledge. Sometimes you're not going to be recognized. Sometimes they're not even going to say thank you. But be led by the fact that, why am I here? And what purpose can I fulfill? I promise you, God will open doors for you. You've heard on this platform, people ask, you know what? You will never put out something and it won't come back to you. It will always come back to you. And never undermine anybody at any level, because you don't know who that person is in their communities, in where they are. You might find them in the workplace, being at a lower stage, but in the community, they might be impacting people. So for me, my last words to whoever is going to go into the corporate world, the younger person, don't expect, you know, just to be recognized, and you expect.
Don't be entitled. Don't feel entitled.
Yeah, but employ ask the question, why am I here? Paycheck, purpose, and employ the 3 H's, which is be hungry for knowledge, ask, be vulnerable, ask if you want to know, research, do your own self-empowerment, work hard. And you know what, as Abantu Bakabawo, we must employ the spirit of excellence in everything that you do.
Thank you. Wow. In fact, when you were talking about hunger, it reminded me of a motivational speaker called Les Brown. And he goes to town about this issue of being hungry. You're hungry for learning, hungry for knowledge. Thank you so much for that. Thulani, can you please wrap it up for us as we are fast approaching the close of this? If you can just reflect on the issues that we've talked about.
Sure. I think on the 3 areas that you've asked, starting with COVID, I think for me, maybe not lessons, but reminders. Firstly, is to let go of things we cannot control. COVID has just, sharply reminded us of that. 2, a reminder about agility, that no matter how much you can plan, you should plan for the unexpected. They will happen, and the COVID has shown that quite dramatically. And also comfort with uncertainty. We've always known that things are uncertain, and it's not just to be comfortable, but to thrive in those things. Colleagues have already highlighted the importance of realizing that there are many things we do, there are many things we have, but we don't need. That has been true too. In terms of transformation, just a couple of points to say that our responsibility is to be a voice and an advocate of transformation. Abantu mabangabhedi ukhona with confidence. People should know ukuthi umukhona ngeke babhede and get away with it. For me, that's important. Secondly, not only being a champion of transformation, but be a model of transformation. When you start and by the time you leave, your organization has to be different as a result of that. And then the last one, in terms of success factors for one's career, they parallel a lot, Sis Maureen. Working hard, I don't care who says what. There's no lift to success. All of us will take steps. So for me, work hard still remains. I would also add, be curious. If you want to broaden your horizons, the possibilities, you just have to be curious. Keep learning to keep growing. If you stop learning, you are regressing. As simple as that. Respect everybody and build relationships. Sakachilo, Usis Maureen, it's vital. Have a growth mindset. That for me is most crucial, more so even now. Excellence and results matter. Makhuluma, ungathembisa, but at the end of the day,
results.
Nice, unganjani, but the results mazingeko, enye nenye, it's a footnote. Collaboration and partnerships. There are so many problems. There are so many opportunities. They cannot be taken care of by singular efforts. Collaborating and partnering makes a huge difference. And the last two for me, communication. I've seen intelligent, talented people who are poor communicators, and as a result, they have failed. And I've seen people who are hot airs, but because they communicate very well, they go further than they deserve. So do yourself a favor and make it your business to master communication, especially if you want to be a leader. And above all, trust in God. Thanks.
Wow. Sure. What a powerful conversation. Kus, maybe you want to wrap up for everyone now as we are closing. I don't know if you have the last points to make, and then I will sort of wrap it up because we're already 17 minutes away from 3:30. But it's been really great. Maybe you want to wrap up and say a few things, and then if there's anyone else in here who still wants to say something, I won't leave you out. But I do want us to wrap. Kus, Maureen, and then just last points.
Speaking last is always a challenge, especially when we've got such an intelligent panel, because they cover everything. So without having to repeat some of the stuff that they have said, a few points that I just want to leave on the table again. One, I've spoken on the transformation. We need the transformation of the mind. We need to lead transformation and we need to guide change, but we need to work very hard in terms of making sure that we are liberated in the mind. That's what's going to help us, because you cannot give that which you do not have. And if you don't understand, you are not transformed, you cannot be a champion of transformation. So we need to define and understand what that means for us first, and then we can champion it. Two, to the young people that you've spoken about in terms of in the corporate, I believe that you need to find your purpose. It's very, very, very important that we need to pray about it, and we need to let your counsel of around you, your community of fellow friends, your family, to guide you in terms of what exactly are you good at, what exactly are you gifted, and what are you passionate about. Find it, because God will reveal that to you, and then pursue it. But be realistic about your abilities, because some of us have been chasing dreams that are way beyond our capabilities and abilities, and then we ended up being depressed because we cannot achieve those, and we're looking for the impossible, and yet we are given in a different way. I always say to my children, others have succeeded via different means, but your chance is actually might be slightly different. Find it and go to your path. Commit to your dream, because one of the challenges that we've got young people who think that they've been raised for us to cook mosho is to take 4 or 5 hours, and now we've got instant moshos. They open it, put in the microwave, they eat mosho, and they think that in corporate they have to be successful. There's talk about being a millionaire at 25 and at 30 and so forth, and those things they blind young people. Commit to your dream, and you must always understand that there is no substitute for hard work. Thulani mentioned it, but I want to also say it again. I've seen very highly intelligent people who did not have a very good work ethic fail, and yet I've seen very people that are average in terms of intellect with very good work ethic who have committed to their dreams and hard work, and they've actually succeeded beyond. So there is no substitute for hard work. If you're intelligent, you need to work hard to achieve. Also, I want to say again, you need to accept your journey. Journey I made an example with my wife, Thulani, Sis Maureen, are not the same. We've got different journeys. Accept your journey, embrace it. Mine had twists and turns. I want to make an example. One of the ladies that I met, whom were together in high school, said to me, Mkhuseli, one of those beautiful ladies, I would not have actually thought that you would turn out this way. In actual fact, you're not a guy that I would have dated. And I'm saying, and she gave me then, talking to her friend, said that Mkhuseli is a late bloomer. And I spoke to my wife. My journey has always been longer than my friends. My friends graduated early, they worked early, everything happened for them early. My journey has been much longer, and I've accepted that I'm a long distance athlete. My things will happen, but they will take time. So I don't panic when others. So accept your journey. Know what God has actually planned for you, and then you accept it and you go along. And understand that in that journey, there are twists and disappointments. I always want to say, we do not prepare our children for failure. When they get to, once they've got good qualifications, they've been prefects, they've got straight A's and whatever, they think that corporate is going to be like that. You must accept that that journey might be different. There's failure, there's disappointment. You must be able to pick you up. Let me conclude, Gajeni, by also saying, once you have achieved, you must never forget God, and that is important. And number two, there is something that we need to, don't lose yourself in the process, who you are. Some, in pursuit of this great success, have lost their virginity, they have lost their morality, and a whole lot of other things, because people have promised them things that will accelerate you in this ladder. Don't lose yourself in the process, and your self-worth and the values that you have. And lastly, once you have achieved, once you have achieved and you are sitting like Thulani, never allow the position to define who you are. That's a position, it's not you. When you lose it, or when it changes, if you are Thulani, you are Mkhuseli, you are a father. When I come into my house, out of the garage is the kitchen. My kids don't wash the dishes. I'm not a CEO at home. I come in there, this is my house. I wash my dishes. So don't be pompous and be defined by the position. Know who you are and continue to be who you are. The position is something outside of you. Thank you, guys.
Sure. Hey, guys, I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm in the presence of a powerful group of people and an empowering group of people. And I think you've done justice to this topic today. And a lot of people that are watching are really testifying that. For example, I can see here that as I closed, Urene Munsami is saying, the conversations are powerful, passionate, and propelling individuals to pursue one's purpose, you know? And I see your message here, Maureen, where you're thanking your own leaders and mentors, people like Suzanne, Matimo, Greg Solomon, Nico Jacobs, Brian Tate, and others. Thank you to the Melanes as well, and as well as Luando Bantom. Ulungile Mbunge is saying, no substitute for hard work indeed. Joby, we are Kalela Mfondini. Yo, I Unyansi, look at you. Now, Sis Maureen, you've done an extremely powerful thing today. And for me, this is what I need. This is the motivation and the energy I need for the rest of this week. And so for that, I really like to thank all of you for coming. And I think I need to arrange a lunch one of these days. I mean, you are all in Joburg, and then we can just chat. But really, really thank you guys for this time. And I also want to thank everyone who's out there who has been part of this program. I really appreciate that. And may you please succeed. May we all take these points. I'm going to summarize them and put them up on my Facebook page and the lessons that I could find so that people can learn from this even beyond this time. So thank you so much again. May you have a great week. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
will be in
Thanks
touch.
to you. Really appreciate the opportunity, and to the fellow panelists. It was wonderful, Sonke, and we continue to learn even in this conversation. It's part of the learning process. And
Thank you very much.
And listened, we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you from my side also, Pat. Pat, thank you for giving us this platform. It has been great. I feel honored to be part of the people that can also share what's inside of me to everybody else. Thank you to Thulani and Mkhuseli. Don't think you are just going to be on Zoom. I'm going to hunt you down. I need some of that knowledge. Mkhuseli, that numbers of yours. Thulani, all that overseas education you need to share. And, a special thank you to my leaders and my mentors. They are on this call. Greg, my CEO, Greg Solomon has been a very
welcome, Greg.
mentor, very helpful. My ex-boss that is now an executive somewhere else, Nico Jacobs, my mentor, Brian Tate, my pastors that has been standing in the gap to pray for me, because climbing the corporate ladder can be very nasty. So thank you for praying for me and for standing in the gap for me. The Melanie family, Pastor Melanie and his wife, Luando Bantom, my friends, Dear Raymond Sami Alamaj, and all of them. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All the best. We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch. And also thank you for the people that have written. Sorry I couldn't read everything, but thank you so much for your time. May you enjoy the rest of your afternoon and this week.
Good.
Okay, Mantiabule, we'll be in touch. Thank you.